My name is Shalini. I'm a Sidebar member, and I'm really excited to introduce you guys to this session with Champaigne Graves. She is an entrepreneur, marketing strategist, speaker, and women's consumer expert known for her work helping brands and business owners understand and grow their connection with female consumers and female entrepreneurs. She's the founder and CEO of Boldify, a company focusing on empowering women in business and fostering collaboration among female entrepreneurs. And she has developed the WCR4 method, a proprietary consumer research framework that helps organizations decode the women's market by analyzing emotions, demographics, socialization, and legacy consumer behavior. So, Champagne, I'm really excited to welcome you today, have you talk about really the context of why do women buy. I did notice that you have a super interesting background with where you started off in college and how you kind of built your career. How did you come to focus on the purchasing decisions of women and how to make that a focus?
Yeah, so that actually started with my first business, Boldify. I started that with $20, and obviously $20 is not a lot of money. So what that looked like back then was a boosted Facebook post and strategic relationship with other women who wanted to help me grow. And I knew that if I could get women to like me, I could get other people to do the same. And so through that work, led me into marketing, sales, and then when I was in sales and marketing, I just felt like, wow, the data that I'm working with, there's some blind spots here. And I would love to, kind of bridge that gap. So the sales and marketing aspect is more seamless and kind of just flows into each other, is what I think.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, would love to have you just take us through what your presentation for today and then, as we kind of see people pop in, we can figure out how we want to do a breakout session or a hands-on exercise. So take it away, please.
Yes, hold on one second. Let me start sharing my screen.
And for those of you on the line, feel free to put in any questions into the chat, and then we'll make sure to get to those as we go through.
Why? Okay. So I'm really excited about this one. This is my classic kind of presentation. It's called Scary Good Avatars: How to Strategically Research, Engage, and Connect with Your Best Customers, which are women. And my name is Champaigne Graves again. I am here to help you understand why women buy. And so let's talk again about what an ideal customer avatar means. So, relationship marketing focuses on building and nurturing long term business relationships rather than one time transactions. And these are the kind of marketing tactics that work best with women. They are people that take a little bit longer to buy. However, research says that 92% of them are more likely to pass along offers and let other people know about your brand and become your largest brand evangelist. So being empathetic to the decision making process of women is going to really help you really convert that sell in a way that seems seamless and it doesn't feel like you're pulling teeth. So if you're offering an MVP, you need to think about how your ideal client or customer avatar is going to change based off of your business offerings and the maturity of your business. So be choosy about who you want to attract. You should begin by creating an avatar based on the women you would be excited to work with. And no, you should not get to every woman, even if your product solves a solution for every one of them. So let's start off with emotions. Let's talk about how a woman feels when they purchase products like yours. Obviously, we all would like a woman to feel positive feelings before she finds your business. However, don't be afraid of women experiencing negative emotions before they buy your product, especially if that product solves the most pressing and urgent issues that they have going on in their life. And I'll press on that a little bit more when we kind of talk about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how to switch back and forth based off of your messaging. So when thinking about emotions, going back to that, think about the following sales phases and what emotions the women are experiencing in each of those phases. So when you are prospecting, how does she feel when searching for a business like yours? When thinking about women, we do more research before we buy. So I am currently working a lot with sustainability and in that field. And although women are more likely to lead sustainable lifestyles, there's not a lot of conversion happening with actual sustainable products. So a lot of what's happening is women are doing their own research on average about 6 hours. And if that's on sustainability, um, if you offer something where the stakes are higher, then just expect more and more research to be done on behalf of the woman who hopefully will buy with you. So, understanding that and trying to cut down on that research as much as possible is really going to help things. So, the comparison table is not dead, guys. We need to continue with that. We need to continue to make sure that we're doing research on her behalf so that the prospecting feels easy for her and it feels like you are not asking a heavy lift. So when you are actually following up, contacting her, whether that be through a lead magnet or through actual face to face, how does she feel when you actually offer the solution? What kind of questions are you asking when you are reaching out? Understanding that women do take a longer time to sell to and make that conversion. How are you going to create that relationship? What does that life cycle look like? And it's not necessarily about shortening that life cycle, but paying attention to retention instead. And then when you're nurturing, like I said, making sure that when she's thinking about buying your offer, you're cutting down on as much work that she has to do ahead of time. And then objections, is she open to exploring why she doesn't want to buy what you presented? So when we're thinking about retargeting, if we're thinking about things like, okay, if you have to hop on a sales call and she doesn't convert right then and there, what does that follow up look like, and how can we bring back the conversation in a way where she doesn't feel pressured, but she feels like you're truly helping her and reminding her that she deserves to have this solution solved within her life. And so when it comes to actual sale, how does she feel right beforehand? Because that's going to be really, really important, because there's something that women go through called purchase panic. It's not buyer's remorse. It is a panic that happens before the sell even happens. And why that happens is because of socialization. And so socialization is the psychology behind the actions women take because of the way that they were conditioned, questioned, and all of those things throughout life. Ladies who are on the call, you may understand this. I like to give this fun little story. My husband and I were shopping for a ball gown of all things. And so that's a pretty big purchase to a woman. And I went into the boutique, and obviously me and the shop assistant pulled at least 10 dresses. And on the second one, my husband just made the decision. And both myself and the shop assistant were kind of shocked because, that's a pretty big decision in our eyes. And there was a lot of justification that I did afterwards. Well, oh, this is in a color blue, and I was just about to get married. How about we make it ivory so that I can wear it that time? How many cost per wear is it going to have? Do I deserve to make this purchase? Because the purchase was in the four figures. So these are not just questions that I'm coming up with. This is the actual rationalization that's happening before a woman actually pushes the purchase button. So let's go through a purchase panic scenario. I don't know if this is cut off a little bit, but Maria has been eyeing a sleek, sophisticated handbag for weeks, which reminds me of an article that I recently did with Newsweek, in which a woman bought a $5,400 Chanel bag, but she ended up regretting it afterwards. So it sounds a lot like Maria here. And she was very excited before she purchased everything. This was an aspirational buy for her. So she was a woman who is not the typical customer of Chanel. However, she aspired to be that. So she saved her money and purchased the bag and began to overanalyze her decision. Was the bag really worth the price? Could she have found a better deal elsewhere? Would it have matched her outfits? What's the cost per wear? And then as the days passed, and then the handbag actually arrived, Maria held it in her hands and she couldn't shake that feeling of doubt. So once when we have the actual product in our hands, we are switching from purchase panic to buyer's remorse. So if we could tackle purchase panic before buyer's remorse happens, not only are we building a space where women feel that they have all the time in the world to do their research and not feel pressured for that conversion, but we're also making sure that our retention efforts are intact because we're already tackling all of those questions that she initially has. But if we think about going into your traditional luxury retail store as it stands, it's not, it is a perfect fertile ground for purchase panic. You know, there's not, the associates are trained to not really pay attention to the aspirational buyer like Maria. So not only is she feeling like she wasn't the person that was targeted in the first place, but now that she has it, she in her hands, she definitely doesn't feel like she is the woman who deserves something like that. So in the end, she realized that purchase panic wasn't about the handbag itself. It was about the deeper insecurities and doubt she harbored about her choices. And so when women are socialized to question every single choice that they do make, why wouldn't that reflect in the purchasing process too? And so that's something that we need to definitely be mindful of.
And Champagne, is it okay? I have a question on that story.
Yeah,
I thought that was really fascinating, just the part about recognizing this emotional aspect where this woman who bought this handbag, it wasn't as much about just the monetary panic, about this emotional panic of do I deserve it? When you think about brands, eh, and in terms of like, like really creating that confidence level, is that the important takeaway there that when the brand needs to deliver something and then also deliver a sense of security of like not only did you make the right decision but you deserve this and now we will support how you feel better about it.
correct. And it's even better if there's some kind of follow up. And obviously, you don't have to do that yourself. We have so many automated tools that do that. So, one of the things that could have been a better experience for Maria in the example is that when she went, she could have gone inside of the actual retail location and the training of the associates would help her with that questioning. So she already has those questions in her mind. And if we're thinking about it from the online perspectives, then the things like AI shopping assistants that could be really, really helpful with this process too. So validating beforehand that she deserves this, this is a great investment, and not only it's a great investment in herself. And in this way, where we're thinking about if she is aspiring to buy something, who does she want to be on the other side of that? Right. And so, how do we speak to that woman, the woman that we want her to become, the woman that feels like she deserves the purchase? And then afterwards, how are we tackling buyer's remorse by following up with something as simple as an email, something as simple as a text, and asking, how are you enjoying your purchase, Maria? How are you enjoying your bag? Have you gone out and shown the world yet? Is it something that you're taking with you to work? Again, these things don't have to be done in person. They can be automated by something as simple as an SMS campaign or an email marketing campaign. Do we have any more questions on that? Because I'm totally down for answering more. We good? Okay. So back to that socialization, when we're prospecting, again, we're looking at women who are doing a lot of research beforehand. That's just the way that women buy. And so if she is interested in your product, women are more likely to get on your email list. So if you're seeing um, or thinking that an email list isn't valuable for women, there absolutely is still valuable. They still are looking to research a little bit more. And so one of the things that they're looking for out of an email list is that the authenticity is there. You know, a lot of people assume that when they build their mission and vision and put up those nice statements on their website, that nobody's going to pay attention to that they're only going to pay attention to convenience and price. But with women, that's definitely not the case. Women will actually hold brands' feet to the fire. So if they understand that, for example, you're saying that your company has a circularity mission, if they're saying that your company has a circularity mission and they are coming forth and saying, hey, you know, I have found that when looking and doing my research, that you guys have um, claims, and you have used sweat labor and things like that. Those things will come up. And even if you don't ever have a conversation with that woman, she's having conversations about you elsewhere. So a lot of the conversation is happening on social platforms. And so we need to make sure that we're looking in those places and listening very closely, because not only will a woman make her voice heard when she has a negative experience, and a lot of brands tend to be reactive and only kind of react to something like that. But I think that the best thing that we can do is be proactive. So we're also looking for our evangelists out there. So one of the platforms that I found to be really, really great for feedback, both positive and negative, is Reddit. Reddit is really great because it is a forum. You can be anonymous on there, and people will just express all of their likes, their dislikes. I've seen in certain brand Reddit threads where they're exchanging offers, letting people know the times and seasons in which things are going on sale. So we want those conversations to be happening. And so we need to make sure that we are creating messaging, creating community, creating a sales process that encourages that. Okay, so I don't want to go through that one. Let's go to demographics, because I think this one's very important. And this is the one that I think that people are used to dealing with. They're used to dealing with demographics when creating a ideal customer avatar. But what I see typically is that this is the space where people are just getting numbers and they're not telling stories, and stories need to be told. in order to really understand who this woman is. So examples that I give are women who are the same age and the same education level and the same income level, but based off of their living arrangements. Say someone is a caretaker based off of who the primary decision maker is in the household when it comes to purchasing. Now, research says that that is women to 72.8% of women are the primary decision makers when it comes to purchasing in the household. So we need to make sure that we are speaking to women as if they are the primary decision maker. I see a lot out of market research teams build these really awesome, sophisticated, well thought out customer avatars for men, and then they just apply the same messaging, marketing, sales process to women. And that doesn't work. We need to make sure that when we are going through these demographics, we're creating a story. So if a woman who is the same age, they may have different education levels. And so if you're trying to sell, let's say, a product that has more advanced messaging on the packaging and things like that, remembering that not every woman has a higher education, and then also intersecting that with the larger demographic of, for specifically America. Most people, according to the American Adult Literacy Institute, read at a 7th to 8th grade level, meaning that they have trouble with words like psychology, sociology, biology. So not judging that, but speaking to that instead.
And Champagne, there's a question in the chat from
Mhm.
Mujin. Mujin says, curious about using Reddit as a strategy, and kind of in the context of what you're talking about, in terms of um, like where we include information. Do you mean we should post ads in Reddit or create accounts and engage in Reddit, social in general, or just use it for scraping and market research? Because I think Mujin's take is that they tend to ignore the ads and the self-promotional posts. So how do we
Mhm.
intersect with that?
I actually just use it as a social listening tool. One of the things that I like to do is create throwaway accounts on Reddit to in order to get inside of the threads of some of these larger companies. For example, I'm in the Ralph Lauren subreddit, and in there, there's always exchange of information about things that are going on. For example, Ralph changed up the formula for their cashmere, and there was a lot of dialogue about that. So that is invaluable to be able to kind of be anonymous in that space and seeing people kind of interact with the brand in a natural, authentic way, I think is the best way to utilize Reddit because you're going to, yeah, like I said, you're going to get that honest perspective that you may not be able to get in like, your typical market research setting.
Great answer. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so we covered demographics and how it should tell stories. Now, why should those stories matter? Because of intersectionality. Women can make the same amount of money in the same age, but the story behind the numbers say something different. One of the examples that I give is fintech companies that are providing financial literacy apps for women. Both women make $70,000. Both women are 45 years old, but one woman lives in Kansas, is child free, and owns her house outright. The other woman lives in San Francisco, has 2 children, and is a single mom and struggling. So these women on the surface seem like the same person, or you could sell to both of them underneath the one ideal avatar. However, what are the stories are different. And so we need to make sure that we're figuring out the stories, and you can figure out the stories by asking just a few more questions in that market research process. So, we're not necessarily asking things like if people are caretakers. It's more so, hey, people who have children, what are the ages of those children? There's other caretaking that happens in the home, and primarily that's happening with women. If we're thinking about things like money, just because a woman has a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to spend it. She may have discretionary income, but a story tells that, she grew up poor. And so she has a lot of scripts in her mind about money and how she needs to save for a rainy day. But she works really hard, and the rainy day may never come, but she's still holding that money story. So if someone makes $100,000 now, ask them something like 5 years ago, how much money were you making? Okay, so this is my favorite part. If I get to it, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so when I work with my clients and do these workshops, I love to know, is your product a need versus a want? And once when you figure that out, your messaging should speak to the other. So, for example, if someone needs to have a home security in their home, right? Then you're not only speaking to, hey, you need to have this because something bad might happen, but you're speaking to love and belonging, because there's a sense of connection where we know that your family is staying safe. There's an intimacy and knowing that no one that is outside of your bubble coming into your home. There could even be self-esteem in there. There's a confidence that you know that your family's taken care of. And let's try it on the other side, on the want. So if someone wants the $5,400 bag, then okay, the psychological needs are being met, or some of the physiological needs are being met, in that the mental health aspect of things. And then safety and security too. So social ability. This person may be out and about trying to get into a new tax bracket, get into a new social space. And so a lot of the old school, you have to look the part in order to get to where you want to go, still applies. So when we're thinking about a need versus a want, how can we speak and message to all aspects of things in order to make sure that we are not triggering that purchase panic or that buyer's remorse in them. So even if your product is a need, that's when things get kind of tricky, because if she just needs your product, then she can go to a cheaper competitor. But if your product also elicits the things that she wants, she's going to stay loyal to you. Now, this one I traditionally have questions on, because does anybody have any questions with this? Nope. Okay, moving on. Um, so I would like to do this exercise, but I feel like there's a lot of questions. So let's just take one and then walk through it. So what matters to your ideal customer avatar when they invest in products like yours? So just thinking on that for I would say like 2 minutes, based off of everything we've talked about. So when thinking about her emotions, what kind of emotions does she want to feel? When thinking about trying to overcome those objections, how would we elicit a safe experience for her to work through those emotions and go through the process of buying on her own timetable. So what matters is it like the sales process that matters? Is it the awareness? Is it the training? Is it the customer experience? What do you think that they think of when they invest in products like yours? And if anyone wants to share, I'd love to kind of coach them through something if they're specifically looking at the question and they're kind of coming up with, a blank or something like that, or if they want to work through any of the other questions.
Yeah, hi Champagne. I can
Hi.
maybe jump in and provide a little bit of I guess, insight to like that question in particular, right? Like what matters to basically our audience too, right? When they invest in our product, right? Invisalign in
Hmm.
particular. And
Oh, nice.
the way that we've laid it out, right, is I love how you've shared the emotional triggers because that's exactly how we go through our strategy, right? Like always top of mind is like how are we connecting with the audience, women over 40, right? In terms of like how do we connect with them on an emotional level? And for us, like what we see has been working, right? And what matters to them when investing in products like ours, right, for themselves is oral health. Oral
Mhm.
health becomes top of mind, and that's what's been driving most of basically, action on our side for that particular target audience of ours.
Yeah, I love that. And then what I'm also thinking about with Invisalign is that women, especially mothers, they love to see confidence in their children.
I love
Um,
that.
they
Yes.
they do. They love to see confidence in their children and setting their children up for success is that's one of the best ways to do it because like I said, looking the part isn't like that phrase isn't dead. Having a nice smile, having um straight teeth is something that is going to make you stand out from the crowd and is going to make people feel like you invest in yourself. And so another thing that I'm immediately thinking of is that with mothers, there's this saying that you are a reflection of me when we're going out into the world. So mothers tend to do this thing where they make sure their children are all buttoned up and look very good, but they may not invest that much time on themselves. So understanding that women are self-sacrificing for their children, and I don't necessarily mean that in hey, take advantage of that way, but more so, hey, because you care so much about your children, we're investing in your children's future. We're investing in their future opportunities. And I absolutely love that you're speaking to that with Invisalign.
Yeah. And to add to that too, right? I love that you hit all those points because that's exactly how we approach moms of teens in particular, right? Really driving the whole confidence messaging. And we do have a New Year's campaign wherein it's all about investing in yourself. We call it Do It For You, right? And it,
Mm-hmm.
it, it actually drives home that kind of messaging. Like it's time to think about you, right? This is for you. This is for your self transformation, all of that. And I love it just because like it aligns with everything that we've been doing so far on our consumer side.
Awesome. Sounds like you guys are doing a bang up job and doing the right thing.
We're trying.
Good, good. Like I said, I love that. And I love Invisalign. And I have a question for you. Outside of moms of teens, are you seeing those women themselves getting Invisalign or any kind of older woman outside of that teen bracket?
So, I would say yes to like the maybe like the 35 to 40, right? what we're trying to build equity with right now is basically the audience 40 plus, 40 and up.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
we've seen like this year in particular, there's been a lot of, discussions, talks around oral health. And there
Hmm.
is, a natural tie-in to like straightening your smile and getting that oral health tip-top shape. And so we're utilizing that or taking advantage of that, that momentum, building off of that, knowing that our target audience for that particular messaging would be women 40 plus. So that's how this came upon, at least this year, or sorry, not this year, but like second half of 2025 through, this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm immediately thinking about, okay, you invest in your kids first, but then also thinking about like, okay, what about investing in yourself? And that, I know that you don't target that 35 kind of one because, like it's an investment. It is an investment. I know about Invisalign. I had to choose between Invisalign and braces. And so I love that you're speaking to that and that you are helping the woman with doing it yourself and that you guys are doing the work for her, doing the justification for her, doing the research for her so that she continuously feels confident about it because, there is a process that happens with Invisalign where, the kid has to wear it over time and they have to make sure that
Mhm.
they're doing the right things with it so that they can get the best possible result. And so I absolutely love that you guys are doing that work ahead of time because it was going to be done anyways.
And and Matt and I work together, although in different components, right? So Matt's on the consumer marketing side, and I'm actually on the product development side. One thing I
Hmm.
find interesting too about what we're talking about, and as we think about Invisalign in particular as this case study, it is a health product, but there
Hmm.
is also a consumer aspect where we have to recognize that even if you have insurance, this is not cheap. So that it becomes a health product, but it's also a luxury product. So, Champagne, when we think about health versus luxury goods, does your framework apply in the same way you think, whether it fits into one category or the other, like creating to like needing to create that sense of like stability, confidence, whether it's a expensive health item or a just baseline required health item versus like a handbag?
Yeah. So I feel that it applies the same in that, I love that how you touched on even if someone has insurance, it is it is expensive. And I look at it kind of the same way as an aspirational investment,
Mhm.
right? Not everyone has straight teeth. Not everyone has that beautiful smile. And most people aren't born that way. And so it does feel like there's an exclusivity there. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if something is an investment, but if we want to make sure that we're bringing along that woman who is like more of an aspirational buyer of Invisalign. She saved up all of her money and all of those things. Then we need to make sure like you guys are already doing that. You're doing the work of saying, hey, there's you can bring the temperature down because I understand what's going on with you. I know that this isn't cheap. You're not just another number to me that I'm running through my books and things like that. We understand that this is something that you will live with the rest for the rest of your life. So, that's a lifetime investment. And so those are the kind of things that go beyond price point too. So you need to obviously speak to other things outside of price, right? So there is that emotional stability that you are eliciting within these women over the age of 40, not only for their children, you're helping their children, setting them up for success, but you're setting them up for success too, because it is essentially their job as a mother to make sure that their kids have the best possible opportunities. So I feel like both are kind of aspirational buys. And when I think about my method, it applies the best for larger purchases. There is a lot of thinking that goes into your everyday household purchases too. But when I really think about larger investment purchases, that is when we really get into the nitty gritty of there's a lot of decision making that happens before that. And then, especially if they're on something like a payment plan, right? It's happening all throughout that process. And there could be buyer's remorse afterwards. So those are a lot of objections to handle. And that's usually happening with a larger purchase because with a smaller purchase, there's that justification that it didn't cost that much money anyways.
Yep, makes sense.
All right. Moving along. Okay. Let's just go through the sales cycle really quickly. And then after that, you guys can just fire away. So for prospecting, using the knowledge of socialization, which is in the behaviors behind that, to learn how to prospect in the right way, and then also qualify using those intersecting demographics to determine if a prospect is likely to be a customer. Because, if what you're asking for example, back to Invisalign, it is an oral health need if you think about it from that perspective. But people could easily justify and say, well, it's just a want to have straight teeth. So understanding those demographics, that money story with women, because every woman has a money story based off of how she grew up. So really thinking about those things when we're kind of qualifying, prospecting, does this woman not only have the discretionary funds to make up the gap where insurance doesn't cover, or does she feel like this isn't something that is needed for her or something that she is worthy of because maybe she has kids and she feels like she should invest in them first? Or, if we're talking about investing in her kids, maybe she has multiple kids and she can't afford to do it for all of her children, right? So that comes into play where you're putting her in a position to, have favoritism over her children, because there may not be a time where she's ever able to afford it, but maybe we can get her to a spot to where as her kids grow, she is feeling that it's important to save to get them to a certain point, right? And maybe we're doing things also, she will start thinking about doing things also, like having her kids help out with payment. If you tell her the understanding of why she needs to make the investment, like I said, 92% of women are passing along offers and things like that. So not only are they saying, hey, this thing is on sale, but they're saying, I like this because I invested in this because, and I want you to invest in it too, because if I had known what I know now on the other side of this transformation, I would have done it a long time ago. And then when you contact, I think with women, especially if we're thinking about an online space, email is the best possible way to do things. They don't really necessarily like text message campaigns that much, but emails are great because it gives them the opportunity to opt in or opt out, right? But in a text message is kind of a little bit more invasive. Another great thing that works really well is push notifications. That's awesome. When you're presenting the offer, knowledge of her investment habits, of the things that she has invested in before that's similar to yours.
Oh, Champagne, can you hear us? I think you froze. Matt, is it frozen for you too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
thought for a sec it was my Wi-Fi.
No, maybe it's hers. Okay. We'll give her a second to pop back on. Let's see if I can email her on the side. Oh, okay. She disappeared. Hopefully she'll come back in a second. So Matt, this is a group. I don't think I've told you too much about this. So while we're waiting, so Sidebar is a group I joined about a year and a half ago, and so they've been doing a lot of events like this.
Okay.
Some Zoom, a lot that are live. It's been focusing a lot around just general professional development, and a lot of the focus has been AI. But then I've been also really excited whenever there's like topics that are more general and I think speak to a larger variety. So I thought this would be a great topic for people to hear. It Normally we get more people, but I do think it's actually kind of nice that we have like a tiny little audience today. We can just ask all the questions we want.
And yeah, thank you for extending the invite, Shalini. Like
Yeah, of
when I
course.
saw it, I'm like, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think in your role, like I think maybe a lot of what she's talking about is stuff that you're totally aware of. But for me, this is new. And I think
Agreed.
maybe she has
Right, right.
a new way of kind of approaching some of this stuff.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
I actually misunderstood what the event itself was, but what's funny is that I've been listening to, if you're marketing people, have you heard of Story Brand or Story Brand 2.0 or Don Miller? It's basically something that you can pick up if you want to get like a 101 on marketing. So
Mhm.
I've been using it to apply to myself professionally because I think that when it comes to even just finding work opportunities, most of us are doing a really poor job of marketing ourselves. And we're not even using like basic strategies on how to get people's attention. And are you putting yourself in the like customer's frame of mind and then addressing all those concerns? Because we're all human beings at the end of the day, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I saw a lot of the
Agreed.
same kind of philosophies and underlying lessons in what she was saying about caring about their emotions and as they're going through that buying journey. So yeah, just trying to translate that into my own like version
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mujan, what kind of work do you do?
A product manager by trade. And what I've been trying to do is pivot more into building. I'm not someone who enjoys just presenting a slide deck and just like walking away. I've had
Yeah.
lots of experiences actually delivering the solution. But what I've been trying to do is finding a way to sell those services for part-time contract or full-time, attracting the right opportunities and finding the right companies.
Mhm.
But also trying to handle like my own personal branding on top of that because I don't want to just be known for being product
Mhm.
person. I want to build my own products that address other problems that have absolutely no overlap with the things that I want to offer to clients. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's been an interesting exercise and listening to a lot of marketing and branding stuff to help me get that set up so it's clear.
Yeah. And you're a Sidebar member, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
Correct.
feel we should definitely one off then, I think after this. And I'll be at the session in April as well, the summit. But I think what you're bringing up is like also in product, and I think a lot of what even what Champagne's talking about, and it does relate back to, it's that consumer mindset still applies to how you want to sell yourself or sell your services. So I think it's actually instead of bucketing as like, hey, those of us who are product stay away from marketing, I think it makes a lot of sense to say like a lot of it's just around, purchasing behavior. So it'd be great for us to talk more about that and
Yeah,
jump
that'd be
into that.
great.
Yeah. Hey, Champagne, welcome back.
For that, guys. I'm so sorry for that, guys. My computer decided that it wanted to reboot in the middle of things. So I'm sorry. Did you guys have any questions for me at all?
I think you kind of froze on your that last slide you were sharing, and so no questions at that point. We were just kind of chatting around, what we found interesting overall about just purchasing behavior, and how it's critical for all of us, even if those of us who aren't on the product side. So I think some of that construct makes a lot of sense where it ultimately just comes back to you don't have to be in consumer marketing to understand what you're talking about, right? It applies whether you're just trying to sell yourself, your services, look for a job, like really understanding that motivation factor.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys again so much for your time. Do you have anything else at all for me?
Matt, Nugent, do you guys have any last questions or thoughts you want us to bring up?
No, if there is a recording, I'd love to see the deck again. I think you had some really rich details in thinking about demographics. I personally don't have a product or brand that's targeting women specifically, but I like the way that you've taken the problem and thought very contextually. Like just because they have the same income bracket does not mean that you can just sell or pitch in the same exact way because you have to look at those circumstances. I think that'd be really helpful. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's perfect.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to pass along the deck to you guys so that you can review it even more.
That would be great. And then Matt and Mujan, if you I just posted in the chat a Google Forms link. We always try to like to get some feedback of these sessions and or your thoughts on like what, questions or topics we could expand upon next time. So would love if you can take a minute to fill that out. But Champagne, thank you so much. Again, no, it was a small audience, but the topic is fascinating. And I hope that with the recording and the deck that we'll probably get a lot more questions that we can bring back to you.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So much.